So what is heteronormativity? Wikipedia says heteronormativity is the belief that people fall into distinct and complementary genders that roles in life. So a man and a woman are going to get together and make kids, and everyone's going to be the same. And it's just like, well, if your family doesn't look like that, you can speed. It's all good. So here's some examples. In marriage, let's say someone comes up to you and it's a woman and she's like, yeah, I'm married, and you just, what's your husband's name? Heteronormativity. You didn't even, your brain, not you, your brain just decided that since more commonly women are married to men, that you were going to ask her what her husband's name was. It wasn't your fault. Your brain just made an assumption. In sex education, even if there's good sex education at schools, it's usually like always heterosexual sex. On television, I'm going off cop shows. I watch lots of cop shows. You always see the main character, and they have their partner and their opposite genders, and they always end up dating. But you never see a main character and their partner that are the same gender that end up dating. There's not even like a relationship there. Usually they're kind of like hating each other. That's how cop shows are. In magazines, as you can see from the picture, if it's a magazine geared towards women, it's pretty much all of the time going to have ways to please your man, or like this one, 7 reasons guys love you just the way you are. Well, what about women? What if you want ladies to love you? Playboy's really bad at this. If you get a Playboy magazine for women, it's going to be full of men. If you get one for men, it's going to be full of women. And then in domestic violence, heteronormativity comes in. When someone says domestic violence, a lot of people just think, oh, a man's hit his wife. So where it comes from, heteronormativity stems from people confusing common with normal or natural. So right now the statistics say that heterosexuality is the most common sexuality, and cisgender is the most common. That's the statistics right now, but you know. And then people think that because it's common, it's the most natural, and that's the way things should be, and it's normal. So then there's a lack of visibility that plays into that. Not the, like, people know gay people exist, people know trans people exist, but if someone doesn't know one directly affecting their life, like directly in their life, they're just gonna continue making the same assumptions that heterosexuality is normal instead of just common. Like, if they're not directly like in front of like a queer group, you know? And then this is a quote that my mom said: you can't expect everyone to be politically correct. Yeah, no one would ever talk if you were
Don't need anything? You're good? Awesome.
All right, Brett.
I think I need to slow down. We have 40 minutes.
Okay.
No one would ever talk to anyone if we all had to be politically correct. Like, every time you opened your mouth, you'd have to think about all the assumptions behind everything you were going to say, and that would suck. So I don't want everyone to be politically correct all the time, because there's always room for learning. But I want people to understand that when you say something, there's an assumption behind it. If you ask a woman what her husband's name is, the assumption behind it is that she doesn't look queer, so you're assuming that she's straight and she has a husband. And that's not. I mean, if she's not, that's going to be kind of awkward for you. She might just blow it off, but it's going to make you feel bad. So yeah, you just understand, like, if you wouldn't come right out and say, hey, you don't look queer, so what's your husband's name? Like, why would you not say, like, why would you say that indirectly then and just ask for what her husband's name is? Does that make sense? I don't want to police people's language, but I also don't want people to be aware that your brain is making assumptions about people when you look at them for no reason, and you need to tell your brain, whoa, dude, do that. No, tell your brain to shut up sometimes. Okay, so how does heteronormativity create stereotypes? If you assume that heterosexuality is normal because it's common, then you're going to get these boxes that you can put people in to be heterosexual. If you dress a certain way for women, it would be, if you look like this. You're born a girl, and you're going to grow up, and you're going to be this lady right here. This exact person, this lady. And you're going to get married to a guy and you're going to have kids. When we put people into that box, it creates, if you're not heterosexual, you might feel like you're pressured to be the exact opposite so that people know that you're queer. And that doesn't it doesn't really make a lot of sense why we would pressure people to go out of their comfort zone when they're already being pushed out of a comfort zone because they're not allowed in the heterosexual community because they're not heterosexual. Does that make sense? So then you get the opposite stereotype, where if you're gay, people expect you to look like this. And if you don't meet these stereotypes, you're in neither community. And then you might feel a little bit lonely. For men, it puts this stereotype that you have to be posture, and you're not allowed to smile.
You have to be Peter Burke.
Yeah. You're not allowed to smile
Wait,
ever.
that's not Peter Burke.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're born with what a doctor deems male genitals, you're gonna grow up and you're gonna be a man, you're gonna wear a suit at your wedding, and you're gonna marry a woman. You're gonna have 2 kids, what my friend calls an heir and spare. But then if you're not heterosexual, you might feel like you need to go out and paint your nails and dress like this guy. Honestly, I just googled the word gay and that came up. Yeah, it's sad. But that, like, if you don't fit that stereotype, like, maybe that's not your comfort zone. Maybe you don't like painting your nails because nail polish feels weird. Then what are you gonna do? People are gonna be like, you're not gay enough. And then you're gonna be like, whoa, 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 I just got kicked out of the heterosexual community. What are you doing? Kicking me out of the queer community. That's not cool. So this is how it affects everyone. It affects queer people. Heteronormativity affects queer people, and then it creates an opposite stereotype to the normal heterosexuality. We're creating an abnormal stereotype. We're putting people with crazy dress as the default. If you're queer, you have to dress like this. It puts a lot of pressure on little kids, because when parents have kids, they're going to be forcing this normal lifestyle onto kids when it's really just a heterosexual lifestyle. And that's a lot of weight to put on little kids' shoulders, you know? Like, you have to grow up because you were born with what a doctor said were female genitals. You have to grow up and be a woman, and you're going to look like eye candy, and everyone's going to love you, and it's going to be great. But maybe you don't want to grow up like that. And then your family, you might feel lonely because you don't fit in with what your family thinks that you should fit in with. And then you go to the queer community, and you're like, well, but I kind of like wearing skirts. And then they're like, oh, no, put on these army boots and cut your hair short. This puts a lot of pressure on parents to beat it into their little kids that they need to be normal, when it's just they need to grow up like their parents. But, you know, everyone's different. Why can't we have extraordinary kids, not just ordinary kids? So this goes into the idea of being queer enough, in that it creates visibility problems. So if you're not visibly queer, you're not queer enough. Like, I don't know, sometimes I get that vibe when I walk into a queer space and there's like all these people in like all this rainbow garb, and I'm like, I don't want anything with rainbows on it. And I'm not visibly queer, so I'm not contributing to the community. I'm not helping people combat heteronormativity because I'm not queer enough. And then I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm not straight, and that means that I'm queer. I get to be in this community. Don't judge me. So that has ties to heteronormativity, and it hurts us because the queer community is a space where people that felt like maybe you didn't quite fit in with the heterosexual community, the cisgender community, you have a place to go and hang out and be cool too. But now you can't even hang out in this cool queer space because you're not queer enough. And then we get these stereotyped looks, like that gay guy that I showed you, and then this butch woman. We get those stereotypes, and if you don't fit them, you might feel left out. And then that's not cool, because then you're left out of 2 different communities. And then where are you going to go? We're going to put a queerer space and a queer less space. So then if you're kind of queer, we're going to have levels of queer. Is that how this is going to work? The future, you guys. So then some examples in the trans community. If a trans man is like passing as a straight male, he might not feel queer enough, because technically he's a straight guy, going to queer space, and they're like, oh, you're an ally? No, I'm kind of queer. Does that make sense? In the lesbian community, you have femme lesbians and butch lesbians, and sometimes butch lesbians get upset at feminine lesbians, from what I understand. that they're not butch enough, they're not queer enough. Oh, you're just pretending to be gay, but you're not dressed like a lesbian, so you can't be a lesbian. And that creates bisexual erasure as well. Like, if a bisexual person wants to dress up butch or femme, what does it matter? They're still going to be bisexual. Does that make sense? Like, do you have a question?
No, it's just, to me, bisexual erasure is not really about how they're presenting. To me, bisexual erasure is when they identify as bisexual, like for us during college years, and they have that phase where they're bisexual and they're dating same gender, but then later on they get in a relationship and date. It's that erasure is when they get married into a heteronormative relationship, and people don't allow them to be in the queer community anymore. That's bisexual erasure, from my understanding. So.
I also think that bisexual erasure is more than if they are in a straight relationship.
Right.
Like if they are in a same-sex relationship, then they are assumed gay, or they're assumed. I think it can go both ways.
Right. So it's a constant having to out yourself as no, I'm not gay, I'm not straight, I'm bisexual, or pansexual, depending on how they identify.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's both part. Like, if you don't act a certain way or behave a certain way, and then you have, if you're gay, you act this way. If you are straight, you act this way, and then you've got all of us who are in the middle, or bisexual, pansexual, poly, whatever you are. Like, you're in the middle, and it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, and then you're not good enough for one community, you're not good enough for the other community. And then on top of it, if you happen to be dating someone of the opposite gender, then you're like, you're not part of this community anymore. It's like, but I'm still, and I'm not part of this one, so where am I? It's part of both, and it happens regardless of what else is going on in your life.
And though people also get the misconception that like bisexual people are always going to be cheaters because they can like more than one gender.
Yeah, and if you're like pansexual, you're not just a cheater, but you don't want to be in, like, some people want to be in a polyamorous relationship, but some people want to be in a monogamous relationship. But if you're pansexual, you're like, oh, so you're going to date everybody at the same time, and it's like,
That's
no.
exhausting.
I know! Like, I couldn't handle that. I could barely deal with one person. Props to people who can deal with more.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other examples they want to talk about?
Yeah, we have lots of time. I've been talking too fast.
One thing I'd like to say, does anybody watch Kingsley on YouTube? Okay. So one of his videos, he is gay, and he talks about how one of the stereotypes, a big stereotype for gay males is that they like have to know a lot about fashion and stuff like that. And he does not know anything about fashion. If you just watch his videos, and he's very open to saying that, but I think that's definitely another big stereotype is that if you're a gay male, you're kind of expected to know a lot about fashion, or people will assume, like, if you go up and ask a gay male, like, oh, what do you think of my nails? They may not really care about your nails. They might not know anything about nails, and that's another stereotype that I think is a big one for gay males.
I constantly disappoint my queer spaces.
Yeah.
I'm jeans and t-shirts for all occasions.
Yeah.
So
That's me too.
it's you see the flicker of disappointment constantly when people ask like, oh, how am I looking this dress? And I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
I'm sorry.
Same.
No, go ahead.
I go from this, I took off the restricting. I go from dressed up with a bow tie, a very, very cheap bow tie, because money. From this to did you see last night? That was like 6:00 p.m. Disney Channel Halloween dad aesthetic. It ends at 9:00 so the kids can go to sleep. It was crazy.
That's the
like,
aesthetic I strive to, so don't diminish that for
that's
yourself.
mine. It was like spooky Walmart.
I wish I
kids
cared enough
shirt.
about my clothing to like put that, but I wear my work shirts all the time, so it's all like central. So
Yeah.
wear it.
Another thing, is that I think a lot of girls always want a gay guy best friend. Like if they find out you're gay, like they'll be like, "Oh my God, let's be best friends," because I'm assuming that you like makeup and you like fashion and you like nails, but that's not true. I mean, it may be true sometimes, but it's not true all the time, and we can't just assume that because you're a gay male that you're gonna know all about that. Because let's be real, not a lot of people.
I was gonna say like the same thing like Kingsley does that video on I do not want to be
Yeah,
a gay BFF.
exactly.
He's like, just because I am a gay man does not mean I want to go shopping with you and get my nails done with you. He's like,
Exactly.
There's actually a good movie on Netflix that actually accurately, in a comedic way, almost Mean Girls style, portrays it, called GBF. I highly recommend it. It is a beautiful movie.
It's on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay.
That's cool.
yeah.
Shameless Plug, my favorite movie.
Oh my God, they're only talking.
That's your last.
We have like 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes? I don't know, what time does it end? Does anyone know what time this one is?
Oh, I can tell you, hang on.
It ends at
11:30? Perfect.
We have half an hour.
We have half an hour. Alright. We'll wait till it's Yeah, really?
Another one was.
Hey guys, let's listen. Sorry, go
I think
ahead.
another stereotype is body type, because most gay guys, they're expected to be fit, super gym bunnies or the skinny twink stereotype, and then I'm not sure how it is for lesbians. If anyone wants to be thinking on that.
It's like the skinny shame lesbians, that's like one body type, it's like a stereotype. It's like all the CrossFit lesbians. People ask me all the time if I do CrossFit, and if I like, my girl's like, can you help me build this closet? Like, you seem like you have carpentry skills. I'm like, have you met me?
I found the age was another one too. Gay community.
Yeah.
It's like once you get 30, you're not allowed to be gay.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
You're out, you're old. it's
Yeah.
like-
That, or you're instantly categorized in the bear community, and all you can date is bears,
Right.
even though you're not into that. So,
Yeah.
So that's not cool. So how can we all help combat feelings of not belonging? It's gonna be a half-hour debate.
Good.
Yes.
Just like talk to people. I know that like for Christmas, once I told my family that I was gay, it was literally like, okay, well for Christmas you're gonna get a facial, a massage, pictures of yourself. I was like, I don't even know what stereotype that falls into, but I got headphones with flowers on them, and then I got like a banner with two guys holding hands and a big thing underneath that said Pride, and I was like, you guys so know me. Thanks to the laptop that I asked for, the gym membership that I asked for, and all the stuff that I actually do. Thank you so much. So like discussing that stuff with the people that you care about and just random people, like, oh, if someone could approach me and was like, oh, you're gay, let's go shopping or something, and it's like, like, just FYI, I
Shopping
don't
is
like
boring.
shopping. Like, I especially don't have money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm broke. Maybe when I have money, unless you want to buy me clothes, like, I'm fine with that. But like, I don't like that. So like, just talking about it. Like, you gotta say, hey, not everybody's like that.
Yeah, I
You
think
don't
people
all
need
fit
to
in
understand
boxes.
that you're not a different person just because you come out.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't become the stereotype. You're the same person. You're just out to them now.
I think another thing that we can do is also kind of watch ourselves, because sometimes we may accidentally, kind of make those stereotypes like when we meet somebody. I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes you might just assume things that might not necessarily be true.
What were you gonna say?
I mean, I know with me, part of my thing is I'm also LGBT and religious. So for me, I live in a religious community on campus here at USF. And when I brought my boyfriend over for the first time, not only did I get the religion card played, but I got the we feel uncomfortable just because your boyfriend's here. Yet all the girls had their boyfriends over. They were having like massive parties, whole 9 yards. Yet just because I was gay, I got the uncomfortable card played.
Did they know you were gay before?
Yes. I mean, I was very open, saying this is a non-issue for me, and I want it to be a non-issue here, so I'm gay, this is me. And then it was automatically assumed that I didn't know how to clean a clog, like, they're like, oh no, we need to hire a plumber. Like, I'm handy, I can take care of that. Oh no, you're gay, how do you know how to unclog a sink? Really? So, it's not just because
When you
you
become
identify.
gay, when you become gay, when you come out, people
Yeah.
they don't switch your brain and you're
Right.
a new gay person. That you're just
For me, it's actually, like for me, it's a lot harder actually in the LGBTQ community sometimes, because I identify as pansexual. So if I happen to be dating someone of the opposite gender, then I'm like, some people are just like, well, you're not in our community anymore, like, you don't belong here. I'm like, no, I do. And a lot of times it's just me being like, this is where I belong, so, just deal with it. Because people will try and be, you're with someone of the opposite gender, or you're straight now. I'm like, no, I'm not. It didn't change who I am and how I identify. I still have all these problems, and I feel like for a lot of people who don't identify in like those binaries, it's even harder because people want to stick you in them.
yeah. It's like
And
when I met you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that I was signing my life away to be a queer stereotype 100% of the time.
like, no, that's not right, and I want this community just as much as you do.
I was talking to my mother about I was interested in someone who identifies as masculine or genderqueer, and I had previously come out as gay. So she's like, well, does this make you straight now? No, Mom, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
I notice that sometimes, like, when people ask me to lift stuff or something, and I mean, this is probably just promoting the stereotype, and it's something I should probably stop doing. But, like, if they're getting on my nerves and they're making me really annoying, I'll just be like, oh, sorry, broke wrist, can't do it. And it's like, just because, like, people have that stigma in them, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna use this card just to make you upset. Have a great day. I'm just gonna walk away. No, it's probably something.
I think another stereotype is that if you are bisexual or lesbian and you're with a girl, some people will just assume that's your girlfriend and not just your friend because, you're a lesbian and you have a friend that's a girl. So.
I've heard of people losing friends because they're like, "Oh, I don't want to date you." It's like I wasn't hitting
Yeah.
on you. I was coming out to you. I wasn't hitting on you.
Yeah.
Also have to think about the language. Oh, sorry. Sorry, no, confused me.
So I'm genderqueer, but I express myself feminine a lot of the time, and a lot of times, like, people in the community will tell me, like, oh, well, you pretty much dress like, so you probably don't face any kind of stigma or issues at all. And I'm just like, it doesn't mean that it emotionally doesn't affect me at all, like, a lot of the time. But, I think talking about it, a lot of times people don't know that things are actually upsetting you as much as they are. So when I express myself more, usually they apologize and they want to know more about what it means to be genderqueer. So that's always good. That's it.
Oh my
Gosh,
goodness.
all raising
Ah!
hands at the same time.
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
around. Oh,
sorry.
It was in relation to that.
Okay, go
Did I
ahead.
say it right?
Yeah, go for it.
That's a big issue in the queer community, or genderqueer community, sorry. Genderqueer community, the idea that you can only be genderqueer if you are presenting completely androgynous or masculine. So anyone presenting feminine genderqueer, completely ignored. People just don't recognize that, and they don't respect pronouns when you present feminine. Like the second you wear a dress or anything, they're like, oh, you must go by she pronouns now. So what's the deal? And personally, I feel that.
I'm sorry. I am.
Right, go ahead.
Are we gonna be talking about cisgender stereotypes at all?
You can if you want.
Okay, well I don't know. I have a lot of trans friends, and a lot of them are queer people of color, and so needless to say, they're kind of angry about a lot of things, and I try and empathize with them, but like once they start going off on like the human rights campaign type of gay guy, like I fit into that. Like I'm a cisgender white gay man, and when I try and ally for them and empathize with them, I sort of get the no, you just couldn't possibly understand like where we're coming from. Like you're part of the oppressive, part of our movement and things like that. And I'm just like, nah, like I want to help. Like how can I help? And they just sort of like push me off because I'm not queer enough. Like I'm convinced.
I think the idea of transgender people that go from one binary to the other, passing itself is heteronormative, even though that feels right to that person, Like it can be like, maybe if a trans person doesn't want to go all the way, but they feel like, well, if I only want to be 80% male, I might as well just go 100% because no one's going to recognize me if I only go 80%.
I don't think it's necessarily about passing so much as it is like their conceptions of what a cisgender white gay man like does to them in general. Like they sort of view the human rights campaign as being like an oppressive group of people because the way they sort of prioritize the LGBT agenda, like marriage equality versus trans violence. It's like how they sort of make the distinction. And like when I'm part of that, when I look like the HRC type of people, it's like they think that I could possibly be a part of their like end trans violence like mindset. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't know how would we respond to that? Okay.
I was gonna say like one thing that I was thinking about with like we were talking about going from one binary to the other. One thing I see with a lot of my friends who like in high school came out and then like were sort of discovering their butch identity. Like now it's much better and we're closer again, but like a lot of them went through this period of time of being like associating with a lot of like really macho male, like very like sexist comments and behavior, and like one literally said the equivalent of like basically I hope my wife is barefoot pregnant in the kitchen, and like if one of my male friends or like anyone said that in terms of like not seeing another human being like as a full person, I like weighed on that. So I could definitely think like one negative way that heteronormity impacts is like sometimes when people are like first like finding their butch identity, like I found like, and I'm sure it goes like like in a lot of different people, but sometimes there's like a certain amount of like negative like male behaviors of like being overly aggressive and like things like that. But like I see that.
I have a response to what you asked about. I think you should start a conversation. Like, you're furthering your own like stereotype and your own like non-inclusion from the entire community by pushing someone who should be in your community out of it. Like, we're making groups inside a queer community that shouldn't be there.
Also, addressing like emotional wellness and well-being. I'm cisgender as well, so I have no idea what trans people is going through. And so when we do lash out in that manner, like I'm not sure if it's from emotional turmoil or just frustration, but I'm talking more from the mental health experience. So just being there, just listening. Sometimes they're not going to give you like the feedback that's very pleasant, or sometimes they're going to say, yeah, you're not part of this, you don't know what we're going through. So just continue to show support and show that you care. And so, eventually I think they'll get a little closer and stuff.
Yeah, maybe sometimes just talking it out will make someone feel better. Like, I don't get it, can you explain it? And then while they're explaining it, they might just calm down a little bit. Yes?
I was actually going to say the same thing. Like, I just recently became president of my school's pride club, but like when I stepped up, the previous president is transgender, and like I felt like I had like so much to like live up to and everything, and I felt like there was so much hate from that literally like people were talking like they were ranting, and it was very similar to and I had to like pull a couple people, including the former president, aside and be like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Why do I feel like everybody's attacking me? And it was just like simple opening the communication channel, like, hey, I'm on your side, I'm here to help everybody. But why do I feel like I'm now being the one that's ruining things?
You know, like maybe you weren't as queer as the previous president. I don't think you can get as much done. And it's like, why would you make that assumption in the first place? Can we please understand what is the concept behind being queer enough? Why can't we all just be friends? Friends with everyone, you guys.
And I don't think it's even so much the idea of not being queer enough. I think a lot of times we fall into this unnecessary or unintentional competitiveness when it comes to like oppression, you know? And it's the whole thing that like, you know, you would tell anyone when it comes to like mental health, like just because you are a problem, like you have your problems doesn't mean, or your problems are subjectively worse than mine doesn't diminish mine. I think the same logic needs to apply to, you know? And that's what people need to realize, and what we tend to fall into pitfalls to a lot. And it's a tough conversation, it's a tough channel to navigate, you know, because there are voices that aren't made visible enough and things like that, and those voices do need to be heard, but also, you know, having those lines of communication. So we're not, again, it's like we shouldn't be, you know, competing or fighting against each other. We should be all working towards, you know, addressing each other's goals and working together toward.
Like, I think it all boils down to the whole, you can't stereotype other people, like you can't say, because you're cisgender, you don't understand and can't understand, even if you're sitting here and listening and letting me explain it to you, you know, you can never understand you're cisgender, and pushing people away who want to be allies and help us out and further these causes that are very important to all of us. And, you know, just because someone may not have known when you start a conversation about something going on, that doesn't mean that they don't care. And I think just as a whole, you know, we talk a lot about accepting everyone and accepting where they're at, but I think sometimes we kind of preach that, like, if you're super queer, that's where we're accepting, but not if you're like, you know, you happen to be a cisgender straight ally, like, that's not okay, like, but it's just like a stereotype. What we accept is just different, and I think we need to just stop and look and just see where we're falling short and accept people where they are who want to help us make this world a better place for everyone, you know.
Sort of maybe adding to that a little bit. I mean, I understand the need for identity and the labels we put on it a lot of times. I sometimes wonder if we haven't gone a little too far microscopically categorizing everything. You know, instead of this is my gay friend Kurt, why not this is my friend Kurt?
Yeah.
I sort of leave the rest of that out sometimes. I think we,
Yeah.
First.
yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. As someone that doesn't identify as fully gay or bi, and I don't necessarily fit any of the typical LGBT stereotypes, I've been ostracized way more by our community than I ever have by straight people. And I feel like we all want the same thing, but our community is so fragmented and focused on labels and all that kind of stuff that we're not making the progress that we could be making, because we're just focused on these little things instead of the big picture.
I mean, labels can be good, like they help you feel like you know who you are, but at the same time they shouldn't define the whole person. They should never define the whole person.
Definitely.
You don't really say, oh, that's a right hand over there. Like, no, that's a whole person. That's not just a right hand, that's not just a left hand.
You know, if we all had to walk around with every single label that we identify as since we were born, we'd all have a book and we'd have to read it as soon as we sat down at a table.
It's a lot longer.
Yeah. This name tag would be super long, and in fine print, you'd have to get a magnifying glass to read all the labels.
You can get too detailed. We did too much information for all we can know.
Yeah.
You don't even know this stuff.
I think it is important to have like that safe space with people who identify the same as you, like the identity caucus is what I have. But then like in order to further our causes, it frustrates me too when people kind of are just like, want allies. We just want to, like, if we get a ton of protesters who are just, like we were saying, I was doing a march against domestic violence, and if we get a ton of women to just hold up signs being like, yeah, we hate when men beat on us and stuff, like, that's not gonna get as much change as when we have, like, people of all genders, like,
Yeah.
going towards a cause.
Diversity. Because I want to see that happen to everybody.
Yeah, because it does matter. Like, these issues do matter to, like, other people. That's what makes it something worth going for. Like, your support, or his support, is important.
So, yeah, and I definitely think it's important that we're kind of talking about this because I think now we all kind of have a better understanding of all these stereotypes. And it seems kind of like there's almost a bigger problem within our community than with straight people, really. You know, it seems like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like the problem's more kind of internal.
Before last year, I would have considered myself mostly straight. I was sort of the guy that just hung out with a bunch of girls because they let me. I let them talk about tampons and all that. That didn't really bother me. I'm not that squeamish. And they thought I was their gay friend, and I wasn't sure I disagreed. Though I mostly considered myself straight. Up until last year when I started dating my current partner, Alex, who is genderqueer, they would disagree. And I'm okay with that. It's just, throughout the whole thing, I've sort of been quiet. It's been an entire year that we've been together, and I've been going to all their LGBT meetings and the ACE meetings and all that fun stuff, and I'm about it. I actually really enjoy myself. I love the people. It's just, I'm not sure how to be more vocal about my support. Every time I go to the meetings, I'm quiet throughout the whole thing. I don't know how to support my partner except through getting my friends and my family to get their proper pronouns. I've gotten a handful of them, actually, and it's quite surprising. The younger ones are more open to it. The older ones, sometimes they get it. It's been hard, mostly just because I'm as white cisgendered as it gets, and I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me, and none of the rest of this does. And I sort of feel bad about it a lot for some reason. And whenever I talk to my family and I hear them call my partner she, her, all that fun stuff, I get upset because when we're alone in the bedroom and we're talking, I can just hear how hurt they are by it. Not just my family, their friends, the day-to-day stuff, the stopping to get a burrito at the cafe type deal. And hearing all that bothers me more than anything.
Okay, so I'm just gonna give like a little history before I go into this because it's gonna sound really bad otherwise. So I used to have long hair. 2 weeks ago I cut off 7 inches of my hair. And when I came out and I decided that I wanted to like get involved with the LGBT community, I learned all these stereotypes and everything, and I decided that I wanted to learn what it would be like to be like your average butch lesbian. So I cut all my hair off, and it's like not really to prove a point to people, but they'll be like, your hair's short but you're dressing feminine, and it's throwing like everyone off, and it's really interesting to see like how people that have like the girls that have short hair, they're like, okay, so you know, they expect flannels and Vans and all that stuff, and I throw them off, and it's really interesting. You know, there's so many stereotypes, and you just like living it is different than hearing about it. So yeah.
I used to date, and I had a boyfriend at one point. I would bring him to band practices, and people would still think I was gay. I was like, are you kidding me? Yeah.
To bounce to what Alex just said, like just because I know you and I know them and I just like I know a little bit of the history. Just you being here right now is like amazing and supportive, and you're just an awesome all around person. So you rock, and just keep doing you, and things will get better.
It's fantastic advice.
So your name is Alex, and your partner's name is Alex.
We call them Alex squared.
That's awesome.
Well, we should have to try to get both of your attention.
You call one, they both come.
You know, honestly, I think that would kind of go for everybody, though. I think it's awesome that all you guys are here. Like, I myself am an ally, and I'm here, you know, trying to learn more about this and how I can help you guys, and how we can all become one community instead of having different communities, you know. And I think it's awesome that everybody is here, you know, and that if you are gay or if you're lesbian or trans or anything like that, that you've had the courage to, you know, come out and talk about this stuff openly. I think that's awesome that you guys are all here. So.
Well, I have a personal question, like for you as you
Yeah.
So you said you're an ally and you're the president of your GSA. How do you feel like your members accept that?
I mean, our GSA, we're all kind of a family already, so you know, you're in here, you're in my GSA, so you're in my GSA. So I'd like to think that it's good. I'd like to think that, but I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it, we all are a family. And I'm the president, so, you know, I run the meetings and everything like that, but we all make the decisions together, you know, for events and for you know, the meetings, what we talk about, everything like that. We all do it together. So, president, it's just title. You know, we're all doing it together. It's not just me. So.
She does all the paperwork.
Yeah, pretty much. Yay, yeah.
So like, I guess asking for presidential advice.
Yeah.
How do you get more allies and just allies in general? Because we have none.
Oh, really?
Wow. We literally we might have one or two.
Yeah, same.
Oh.
But like we don't have.
Yeah.
Do you have a suggestion?
Yeah. I'm the president of UM's LGBT org, and one of the best ways that we've been able to develop ally relationships on campus is working with other student leaders of like different organizations and just building intersections through co-programming. Like if you can find, like we have an Israeli group on campus, and we've co-programmed a lot with them just because we found so many intersections between Israel and LGBT issues, and so like we'll get together and we'll talk about what it's like being gay in the Israeli military, or you know what it's like, what the gay culture is like in Tel Aviv, or just things like that. And so just find other groups on your campus and express interest to them of like looking for intersections, and they'll be all about it. So
Yeah, that's a big thing for us too, because I actually used to be secretary of Phi Beta Lambda, which was another organization that we had on campus, and we did a lot of collaborating with them, and a lot of their members ended up joining our club. So another thing is, you know, just get the word out there about your club, because a lot of the times, I know for our school, half the people don't even know we have like clubs, that colleges have clubs, you know, and universities have clubs. So definitely get the word out there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I was president of Club Unity at my school. That's basically our GSA. And I was president there for a year and a half. And what we did is a lot of people just were like, it's the gay club, I'm straight, I can't be in it. Huge problem. But what we did is we decided that we were going to start doing stuff to appreciate the allies. So we had literally a day where we did ally appreciation, and we got people who were like, oh, I didn't know I could be in this. And I'm like, yeah, we love you, thank you for the support, come to our meetings. And that's how we got some more allies, just showing them
That's awesome.
Showing them that, hey, we do want you to come, I promise we aren't going to bite, you can come. So that's when we kind of got word out, and just being active on campus, being there, being present, and then people see you.
Looks like you're ready to go.
Well, I'm actually from USF, so I've been in Pride since 2012. So I was here for our last FCPC, and I've seen a lot, Pride go through a lot of evolution. And when I first got here, it was interesting to see how many allies we had. And just for the first FCPC that we had here then, we partnered up with Hillel and did a code workshop with Scott Freed and got him here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get him here. We partnered up with, what were you saying, fraternity and sorority life.
Yeah.
We had open and affirming sororities and fraternities represented. And they actually ended up joining Pride and being with
good.
Pride. To where we are today, where we still have a little bit of that, but then we have Pike coming in, and it feels like just because the majority of us are gay and cisgender, to say, hey, we're doing a fundraiser for the firefighters, come Google it, all the hot firefighters, and help us raise money. You know, so it's kind of like that dynamic, trying to not stereotype and do the cisgendered stereotypes, but also make sure that we're getting our allies support in every facet, not just for gay cisgendered male allies, all community.
And just sort of a comment on like getting allies on your campus, like that could take on two different meanings, and I think one meaning that it could take on is getting more allies to participate in your organization, and the second is getting more allies to support your organization, and there's a difference. And I think that it's more important to spend your ally energy on building support and not necessarily recruiting, because like allies generally don't make LGBTQ a priority, and so like trying to get them into your organization because you believe like, you know, allies hold the key to acceptance. It's like your organization is meant for LGBTQ people, and so like that's where you should be focusing like your energy on building that space for them, not necessarily for the allies, but like outside of your group, like that's where allies come into play, because that's how you sort of help shape the campus climate, and I think it's just important to make the decision.
I noticed a lot of your organizations tried to partner with Israel, and we tried to do that once, and it kind of blew up in our faces because we got accused of hate washing.
Oh my god.
So, and then we did a lot of events, because I used to also be in the Secular Student Alliance Club, and that was also blowing up in our faces. So, like, at least I don't know if it happened for you guys, but ever since then, like, we make sure that we, like, pretty much the only organization that we partner with now is like the Women in Gender Studies, but nothing else that's too politically or religiously charged, because that was, I mean, it wasn't like that we we were forced to disband, but there was a lot of our members that showed up to the event, and it wasn't even like, it was literally just we were there because they approached us and they were having a soldier speak about his experience, and it's still they've got.
So wait, well, another hand over here. Is there another hand?
I just want to say, like, for what you said, I mean, I understand what you're saying, that it's primarily for LGBTQ people, but I also think it's important to let allies know that they are welcome and that they can come and hear about these experiences, because knowing someone who's LGBTQ and becoming friends with, like, all of us is how people really care and become invested, and like, in order to get real change done on a larger scale, we do need allies. We need people who are friends and who see what's happening to us and say, that's not okay, and that's my friend, and I care about them, and I don't want that to happen. So, like, I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I'm like, we can't be closed off.
Okay, well, I mean, just to respond to that, is you a city head now?